All new material.
He was at the Duck game on Saturday afternoon.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah,
He made that drive,
He
huh?
made his way from Eugene to Portland. Yeah, I don't know if he understood how long it was going to take him to get that there, but Bert Kreischer at the Duck game.
The show did start a little late.
Did it?
About a half hour late. So that tracks.
Maybe a little bit of the reason why.
But yeah, no, he was absolutely hilarious. All brand new material. Brought the house down.
Good.
Brought the house down.
Bert Kreischer is one of my favorites. He is truly one of the funniest people around. And
electric in person.
I would hate to be his wife.
Oh, just all the time?
It's gotta be.
There's no way that guy turns off. There's just no way.
Yeah. There is that man, he's a lot to handle.
Oh yeah.
He's got to be a lot to handle.
He's less to handle right now. He's down like 50 pounds.
Well, good for him.
It's a sober October for him.
He is one of the funniest people around, but two is because he's a phenomenal storyteller. He is one of the best storytellers, and obviously, like, his claim to fame is the Machine story about when he joined the Russian mafia while he was in
20
college.
years old in college at Florida State.
But the man, like, he lives a life that is a story because the movie Van Wilder is based off of Bert Kreischer.
Yeah.
And that's not even like, people were like, oh, that's you, after they found out about the Machine story.
Yes.
So that story isn't even a part of Van Wilder.
No.
Yet it is one of the funnier stories and it's the reason why he's famous.
Yes. Legendary partier.
Yep.
But also, like, just, I love the guy, so I consume just about all of his content, whether it's his cooking show, that's a back and forth with celebrities, whether it's Two Bears, like whether it's his stand-up. He just has it. And when you're, like, we had good tickets, we had floor tickets, we were relatively close to the stage, all that. When you're in the room with him, he's just got it. He, like, you just want to be around him.
Yeah.
There's, when you get around somebody who has that kind of aura, that kind of that vibe, whatever you want to call it, like, they walk into a room and, like, I want to be with that person. I want to be around that. He has it. And it was, to do that with 20,000 people is nuts.
Yeah, that's the crazy part about it, because comedians will tell you, and, like, this is one of the things that you hear from, like, the biggest names in comedy, that, like, Dave Chappelle would rather play the Helium Comedy Club than Moda Center.
But he's doing Moda.
But he's because Dave Chappelle likes money.
Yes, exactly. Because they make buku money doing those shows.
But the intimacy of working a room, like,
working
as
the crowd,
opposed to an arena, is completely different. And even if you don't do, like, the crowd work where you're interacting with people and that's not part of your bit, it is the fact that you can see everybody in the room and you can tell who's enjoying the show.
It's immediate feedback.
Exactly. And when you're, like, in an arena, you hear all of the big name comedians like, it's really hard because you don't know, like, everybody's there for the same reason, right? They're all there to laugh and have a good time, but it's not the same when you can't see their faces. And they say that it kind of, comedy changes and your material has to change as the rooms get bigger and bigger, because you go from, like, these intimate comedy clubs to then you go to, like, a 5,000 seat venue,
like the Arlene Stitcher concert.
Or you go for, like, 2,000 to 5,000, and then all of a sudden you're playing arenas where there's 20,000 people there.
Or you're doing what Kreischer did this summer. Will Ortner went to it. They play the Gorge.
The Gorge
where
and
there's
Red Rocks.
50,000 people in a crowd.
That's wild, man.
Just nuts, man.
To hear you tell your jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Those guys are not doing bad financially.
Yeah. That his movie, The Machine, it had a big boomer bust factor to it.
Buddy, it's a slow burn, but that third act hits like a truck.
Better than I thought it would be. Like, I thought that movie had very high potential to suck.
Oh, yeah, it did.
And it was good.
I thought it was a slow burn, but that third act, when it hits,
it's pretty good.
If you aren't dying laughing, I just don't know, man. I just don't.
It's really good. It's really
good.
The
whole third act, I was in borderline tears.
Yeah. So Bert Kreischer, that is a great weekend.
Yeah, it's a great weekend to paper over the fact that USC lost on the last second field goal.
Who saw that coming?
So, for everybody's like, oh, you didn't watch it? Oh, you aren't tweeting about it? No, I didn't, because I was at Bert Kreischer.
Well, I thought that maybe you were dark on social media because you were actively stalking Alex Grinch to finish what you said at the very first week of the season. When you sent me a text like 15 minutes into their season, Alex Grinch is how I get caught. I thought maybe that's where you were going.
Look, man,
you turned your phone off so they can't triangulate your location.
Well, yes, that would happen, but also I would still make efforts to appear on social media off the burner to have the active alibi.
You're scheduling tweets.
Got it. That's weird. We got the GPS ping from the phone. Looks like it's in Newburgh. We're here, not in Los Angeles.
Some people like train their dog to fetch the paper. Others, train their dogs to be guide dogs. Danny trained his dogs to fire off scheduled tweets to cover his whereabouts.
Good boy.
The IP address said that I was at home, sir, from my own computer.
In fact, I was out for a walk, and it was actually just a burner taped to my dog.
Oh, I laugh, but I'm laughing because I'm scared of you.
How was your weekend, man?
Oh, it was good. Yeah, I don't even remember it.
The Duck games kind of like chew up most of your weekend.
Yeah. High school football on Friday nights.
And then straight into Duck game.
Then go straight to Duck coverage. I think I was on the fan from 8 a.m. till 5 on Saturday.
Lord.
So it was kind of a long day, but it was awesome. The environment at Autzen Stadium, it's really interesting. And we'll get into this as part of the show and as the show goes on. But it's really interesting to go from an environment like UW to where the stakes are so high, the teams it's a rivalry. The entire environment is on a fever pitch where everybody's on their edge of the seat for 4 hours. And then you go to Washington State, there's still a lot to play for. It's still a really good team.
But it's still more vibes.
The stakes aren't as high. You can feel it. Like, it was a different energy in Autzen Stadium than it was when Colorado came because of, everything that came with Deion. But then you could feel it on third down when the game was a little bit tight and the fans kind of felt it.
Little pucker factor was kicking in, sure.
All of a sudden you felt that energy kind of swell back up and you're like, okay, here it is. This is the Autzen Stadium that forces guys to jump off sides, and they actually did at a pivotal point in the game where it was like, oh, hey, there it is, and you got that energy back. It's really interesting, though, to kind of see how players feed off of that, too, and feed off of that energy, because it was different. It was a different atmosphere than just 1 week prior, but it was a good weekend.
Yeah.
And then we did we did this Harvest Fest. Like my in-laws do this every year where all the grandkids and cousins and all that, they all come over and we do the pumpkin carving and very different from yours. You do like the apple cider.
Ooh, like pressed apple cider?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm here to tell you, it is really good. Bees are a problem when you bust out the apple cider. Like, they were just like swarming my face. They were all up in my business. I was like, bees are something that I know they don't hurt you, and like if you don't freak out, they won't. But if that buzz, when you hear it,
by the face,
like around your face, in your ear, and then like they land on your head, I am so jumpy when a bee is around. Like if they land on my hand, I'm fine. Arm, leg, I'm fine. Around my face, I freak the F out.
Oh, sure.
And they just kept doing it. They're buzzing the tower all day long.
Oh, yeah. Just
sick of it.
Going full Ghost Rider.
God. I need to, I understand the beekeeper hat. I want to get a beekeeper hat.
Get one of those little net cover face.
Yeah.
I like it. I like where your head's at.
Yeah. We need the bees. I've been told we need the bees.
The bee population is declining. We need to protect the bees.
Is it really, though? Because I feel like a real big comeback for the bees has been made. I've seen more bees in the last 6 months than 5 years combined. The bee, I think the
I
bees are
haven't seen that
back.
many bees.
Really?
Yeah.
We got some on the roof of this building. You should just walk upstairs.
Oh yeah. Wait,
Yeah.
What were you doing up there?
No, I wasn't up there, but
okay.
we have a bee. There's
Like
like a honey
hive?
colony.
Oh.
thing. You need to check your work email more.
Oh.
Yeah, we've got. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we
Russ?
get honey down here from it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I do vaguely remember that email.
There have been several.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do like bee tours up at
Mm.
the top of the building. I don't know why, but yeah, we're doing our part to
Do they,
save
do they
the bee
die in the
population.
winter? Or are they like a hibernator thing?
It's a really good question.
I'm not up on my bee knowledge. I gotta say.
Mm.
'Cause I know
think
they
just
don't
hang
like the
out
cold.
inside.
Yeah.
They just hang out
Just
inside.
chilling for the winter.
Yeah, that's what I'm. That final answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that the honey makers like they match the bears. It's like they're making the honey for the bears.
Like there's something to Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. It's a little too on
Yeah,
brand here.
Like you're picking up what the cartoon
Yeah.
makers were putting down
Yeah.
when they made Winnie the Pooh
You know,
and Yogi Bear.
stuck in the honey
Stealing
hole.
picnic baskets. Yeah, all right. I saw something that a guy, his ex-wife, turned him in. He's like lived in Wyoming. She turned him in for illegally, and I didn't know that you could do this. Like he worked out like in Wyoming, and like for a conservation company or something like that. But he'd come across like grizzly bears, or like golden eagles and bald eagles that had been dead. And he'd take like their talons or feathers and stuff.
Mm.
That's illegal. Didn't know you couldn't do that.
Which seems kind of weird since they're dead.
Yeah, but then they got him on the poaching of the grizzly bear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did that, and he stole the claws.
I mean, if you take the dead thing, I weird, but I don't think that should be a problem.
Yeah, I feel like that. There's roadkill laws that you can like cook roadkill
Yeah.
in Kentucky. Like it's like no, you can scoop that up and throw it right in your
Call
car.
it good.
Yeah. Hey, you hit that thing fair and square in the
Mhm.
middle of the road. You can throw it in the trunk and let's go. You got dinner.
Call it good. Especially if it's like a moose. Your car's destroyed anyways, so you might as well get to take it home.
All right. 503-864-6326. That is Vancouver Ford text line. Text comes in. Took the kid to the pumpkin patch on Saturday. They had a pumpkin cannon that you could shoot. Those are
Ooh,
cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and they have little targets out there.
Yeah, are we talking like the big pumpkin cannon, like the 20-footer? Have you seen those?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those are super cool.
Yeah, they got one of those up at the patch where we go.
Well, you can have there's the pumpkin shooter, and then they got the apple shooters that you have too, which are
Although
more
that's-
like
that sounds dangerous. That
It
sounds
wa-
like a potato gun.
it's more like think of American Gladiators.
Mhm.
Remember when they would have like the obstacle course?
Yeah,
Yeah.
firing the tennis balls at you.
That's right.
Yeah.
You think of that for the apples, and then cannon for the pumpkins.
Well, I made a supercharged potato gun when I was in high school.
That doesn't surprise
Keep
me.
in mind, my dad's got a PhD in electrical engineering, so
I don't know how. What does that?
No, it was very cool. Like it was like full automated trigger.
That means he made a kick-ass gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your dad made it with
Yeah,
you?
oh, yeah. No, my dad
Okay.
made
I was
Kidding
like,
me? My
I was
dad-
like, I don't know how your dad, being a PhD in electrical engineering, made it your potato gun that you made cooler. But
Oh, yeah,
if
no,
he helped,
No,
then
no,
yes.
that's what I'm saying. He made it. Yeah, I didn't make it. You kidding me? We did the same thing. We had when I was a little kid. We Boy Scouts. You always have like make something. So we had the baseball bat and baseball holder.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like it's a little thing, a floating shelf kind of a deal.
Yep.
Except we didn't make them. My dad brought us into a CNC company, big, giant lathe,
Mhm.
and he programmed it to make the little Boy Scout fleur-de-lis, cut out the spot for the bat to slide in, and bevel the spot for the baseball to sit in.
Well, look at that.
And so they came out like professional. So all the kids all had like these they got to go into a CNC shop and watch a machine go. Zzz, 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 zzz,
That's
and,
pretty awesome.
I mean, they came out awesome.
It sounds pretty cool.
So
That's pretty cool.
did the same thing for the soapbox derby. Mine was really good.
You had the fast car. So
Yeah.
you also had the parents that they're like the science fair, and they're like,
Oh yeah.
here's Danny's project. It's like Danny did not do that.
Oh yeah, 100%. We used a solenoid valve to make an alarm clock out of a keyboard.
Yeah, they're like little fourth grade Danny's like, yeah, I did this.
Like it was welded or soldered together, and just a million different moving parts.
Oh yeah, I wish I had your parents because mine just like made me suffer out there. I'm making the volcano. It's like and now add baking soda, and it didn't work. I was not winning my science fair. They left me hanging on that
Yeah,
one.
no, I had the very active. I'll do that, Dad, and had the means to do it because there's always some machine around to do something.
Okay, perfect. That's pretty cool though.
Oh, it was.
That's badass. Machinery. Awesome. All right, let's get to the sports portion of this program. 503-864-6326. That's the Vancouver Ford text line. All texts of the fan are via the Vancouver Ford text line. Your dollar goes further at Vancouver Ford. They treat you at, before, during, and after the sale. Visit them online at vancouverford.com. Where we got to start this bad boy? Let's go to the NFL. The biggest statement of the weekend next on the Fan. who had the biggest statement of the NFL weekend? Which team made the biggest statement? You've got 4 options here. Ravens over the Lions, the Chiefs over the Chargers, Eagles over Dolphins, or other. Reply in the comments. Write me out. Ravens over the Lions taking the cake with a 55% of the vote. Eagles over the Dolphins, 27.6. Chiefs dominating win over the Chargers. On there, 2 of those games were decided 31-17 rather. And then you had the Ravens absolutely obliterate the then 5-1 Lions, now 5-2, 38-6. And those 3 games right there, those are the ones that came top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also had some statement wins from teams that people were writing off. The Bears beating your beloved Raiders.
I mean, statements were made, but sure.
Well, did anybody believe? Well, I did because I bet on them. That the Bears were going to beat the Raiders.
No.
No.
But I should have bought into the fact that the Bears would be better because they was addition by subtraction.
Your hate for Justin Fields is amazing.
Well, I mean,
never end it.
But look, the results.
You had the 1-5 Patriots knock off the Buffalo Bills. Who
upsets abound.
Yeah, and that was a nice little win. And then how about the Steelers? They continue to be really stinking good out of a bye under Mike Tomlin. I think they're now 13-4 out of a bye. But they also shake the bug of being poor on the West Coast. I mean, that was a really good win by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then you had the Broncos, which they won a football game.
They did. And I bet the under, and I won.
You did bet the under and won. You bet the under was 45 too. It wasn't a very big
36.
Yeah, it was not a big number.
No.
But I think that when you look at this, I think the 3 games that we have on the poll, they're kind of the clear front runners here because you had the Chiefs. What I believe the Chiefs did was just slam the nail into the coffin of the Chargers and just show how badly there is a need for change. You give up 300 yards passing in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
The first half?
Yeah, the Lions did the same.
But that is something that you just cannot do if you are going to be a competitive team in the NFL. And that Mahomes just dicing them up the Chargers in the first half.
Travis Kelce destroying them.
It's unacceptable when you know exactly what's coming and you cannot stop it. It's one thing if you do it in college, right? College,
sure.
That's one thing. The NFL,
you're all professionals here.
No.
Not like that.
And then you had the Eagles imposing their will at the end of the game against the Miami Dolphins. It was clinical, kind of the way that they operated in the way they handled their business. And something that I think bears a little bit more time later in the show is Nick Sirianni going full Dan Lanning on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Except for
it worked.
It works. And when it works,
looks good.
You talk about it in a completely different way. But, they chewed up, by converting 2 4th downs, they chewed up an additional 5 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah, if you look at the difference in that game, 36-43 to 23-17. You're almost 2-1. That's in college, you can overcome that because you've got the ability to just hang points up, get off the field, blah, blah, blah. In the NFL, when you go 2-1, that's you can almost write that as a win, regardless of what else happens, unless you're turning the ball over endlessly. Like you've got to have like 5 turnovers to compensate for being 2-1 on the clock.
You're right, and it's not just clock. It's like even if you subscribe to, we don't care about how much time, we care about how many plays we run. They're running a lot of plays too, and I think that's a huge win for the Philadelphia Eagles.
68-48, 20 more plays in the NFL. That is a substantial difference.
And that was the determining factor in that game, in that final drive, kind of that sealed it with the touchdown after you convert a couple of 4th downs. That was a huge portion of it. But I don't think that there's going to be anybody that disagrees. Well, I think there will be people that disagree because we already have the poll that's disagreeing with it. Lamar Jackson, what the Baltimore Ravens did to the Detroit Lions. Nobody in this room is going to disagree. I think that was the biggest statement of the NFL weekend.
God, yes. Without a doubt. It's maybe the best I've ever seen Lamar Jackson look throwing the ball.
We discussed this on Friday, and you were talking about just the rash of injuries that keep on piling up for this Ravens team. and they continue to be banged up, but you never count them out.
No.
And on Thursday when you were gone and we made the picks, I said, like, there's something stinky about that line.
The Lions +3, yeah.
The Lions +3, there was something that Vegas knew that we don't know, and what was modeling forward. It just seemed fishy that it was a -3 in favor of the Baltimore Ravens. And it just seemed like it was going to be one of those games where Lamar Jackson goes the F off. And boy, did he. Lamar, that was a performance that Lamar's good for a few of those every single year.
This was the best passing performance, I think, of his career. He was 19 of 23 for 307, 304, something like that. He ended up 21 of 27, 357, but his first half was flawless.
And did not have a single turnover. He completed 77% of his passes, threw for 3 touchdowns, 357 yards, 0 turnovers, and then 36 yards in a touchdown run. It's one of those things that you cannot. It doesn't matter how good you are when Lamar Jackson is in his bag like that.
Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't his receivers bailing him out. He was dotting guys all over the field.
We have seen great defenses struggle when Lamar Jackson has those games
because his tools are incredible.
And when you have a good but not a great defense, and I think this should not be any sort of indicator of what the Lions are going to be down the stretch or at any other point.
This is the Lions team that beat the Chiefs.
This is a good Lions team.
It's a really good team. These games pop up.
It did not change my idea of Detroit in any way, shape, or form. And I know that a lot of it is, well, this is a dome team that just can't play outside. Let's not act like the elements were that big of a factor.
No, Lamar Jackson
playing outside
was slinging that thing all over the field. It was not a weather game where you're just like, oh no, it's the weather and one quarterback couldn't hit. No, Lamar is a guy who typically does not do well in bad weather, and yet he was the guy who was in. I think it was Goff that had two yards in the first quarter. It was 200 to 2. I mean, this is Lamar. This is the inconsistencies of him, but when he is on, that's MVP Lamar.
He was historically good.
Yes.
I mean,
on every level.
You think of this, he's the first player since at least 1950, when they were tracking all of these stats, to do the 77%, 3 touchdowns, 357, which is 350 to round it off. No turnovers, and at least 36 yards rushing in a score. Nobody. Yeah. History of NFL. Lamar Jackson, period. Also, he joined Drew Brees as the only player since 1950 to have multiple career games with a passer rating of at least 150 and a rushing touchdown to boot.
Not bad.
Like what? Like when you say Lamar was in his bag and there's nothing you can do.
That's what it is.
It's rarefied air that Lamar Jackson was in last night. And he's good for a couple of performances where you just go, holy crap, every single year.
And that's not to take away Lamar was just, no. The Ravens were dialed in, and there's a little note there of coaches and teams that have publicly come out over the last couple of years and said that they didn't want Lamar Jackson when he's available for trade. And if you look at his numbers in those games, he's completing over 78% of his passes. His on-target rate is over 96%, and he's running for 7 yards a carry.
Wait, are we talking Dan Campbell said that he didn't want
Dan
Lamar
Campbell
Jackson?
said they were perfectly happy with Jared Goff, and they would not be pursuing a trade for Lamar Jackson.
You know what?
I want to say it's like 6 games now that Stephen Rees has the tweet out, and it's just. Mwah.
You ever play the game Wolf when you're golfing? You know what Wolf is, where the guy who first tees off, he goes, and after each guy tees off in the group, he chooses whether he wants to partner with that person against the other 2 people, or he can go lone wolf and he can go against everybody else. There's something that I call the FU tour.
Yes.
Where I will, if you don't pick me, and I feel like you should have, the FU tour is there. And it can be real or not. Like most of the time, you shouldn't probably pick me.
Oh yeah,
but if
you're manufacturing the chip, I like it.
If I get it, I will manufacture that chip, and that's what Lamar Jackson is doing here with this situation.
Oh, you didn't want to trade for me?
And if Dan Campbell's like, you know what, hey, we love our guy in Jared Goff,
our guy who's taking our team to a Super Bowl. We're good with him.
Yeah, we're gonna be okay with him. And Lamar Jackson's like, you know what? Screw that guy. That is the Lamar Jackson FU tour with those numbers. Say those again. What is it? You said 70
over 78% completion percentage, over 96% on target rate. So basically, not only is he completing passes, on target rate is a catch radius metric that I think PFF has.
in like 400 yards rushing too in those games against.
Yes, 400 yards rushing, four
Okay.
rushing touchdowns, and 7 yards of carry. So he's absolutely dotting guys and taking off whenever he wants to and carving them up off the ground.
Well, they should do what also works against me. Then you just start saying, "Wow, that was a really good shot." And just build him
Build him
up,
back up.
and he'll crumble because that's what if he's anything like me on the golf course, that's exactly just build me up, tell me how great that shot was, and I will crumble.
Give you a little bit of juice, and all of a sudden you're cooked, huh? I like it. I like it.
Lamar Jackson, though, and those Baltimore Ravens, I think that is just one of those games where you look at that team and here they are. Nobody is talking about them. They are 5-2. They have the second best record in the AFC. They are starting to get a little bit of that momentum as they move forward in the AFC North, where don't look now, but Pittsburgh is 4-2. Cleveland is 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore is 5-2, and one game back are the Cincinnati Bengals.
That division's the best division in football.
It was a little topsy-turvy at the beginning, right? We
Now
didn't
it's
quite
sorting
know.
itself.
It is sorting itself out a little bit more. And the dust is settling after the beginning of the year. Every single one of those teams is on a 2-game win streak in the AFC North. There is not a single division in the NFL that can say all of their teams are on a 1-game winning streak. And every single team in that division has won 2 in a row. And the AFC North is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And look, it all goes through Baltimore, especially when you have performance like Lamar Jackson had yesterday.
Helpful.
I would say so. And can you imagine if they ever get healthy?
No.
Which I don't think they ever will.
No, I can't.
But they could when they do. If they ever do.
But hey, see,
Watch
the
out
thing with that is if they get healthy, then the Gus Bus doesn't get on the field and break an 80-yarder.
Hell
So.
yeah. All right. 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. You can also watch us and be in the comments at youtube.com/1080am The Fan on YouTube. That's where you can watch this show and see our freshly shaven, mustachioed producer, Jeffrey Rust. He is just sex appeal. He oozes sex appeal today on the program. So you can watch him on there and be in the comments and be a part of the show that way as well. He may not have been in a statement win by a team, but one person sure did make a statement to stay in the AFC North. First is Rust with SportsCenter. numbers. But we got to give flowers to a defensive guy because not nearly enough do we give the credit where credit is due. Myles Garrett was an absolute freak show yet again yesterday.
Wrecking crew, tour de force, whatever you want to call it. He was unstoppable.
I mean, he had 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and he blocked a field goal that you can't even put into words. Like his highlight reel of things that he's been doing this year, whether it was at the beginning of the year where he was standing up in the interior of the defensive line and doing like the fake killer crossover before he does a pass rush, to what he did to jump over the center, and he's kind of just slanted through the A gap, jumped over the center, landed on 1 foot, and blocked a field goal attempt.
And it wasn't like the Troy Polamalu running start.
No.
It was 1 step explode over the offensive line. And for those that are unaware, he's officially listed at 6'4", 272. Number one, he's not 272 pounds. He's probably closer to 3.
That is incredible to think of the explosiveness that it takes to do that off of really a
one-legged, yeah.
It's gather, jump, and
off 2, not off 1, off 2, and clear an offensive lineman, then load again and get up and block the field goal. It's one thing for 6'7", 215-pound NBA player to do that.
Yeah.
Like jump over something and then load again, like a rebound, put back quick hop kind of a thing. That's what they do. Guys, have you seen his off-season workout stuff where he plays basketball?
I've seen videos here and there. I haven't really. I just will go, oh, wow.
It's a terrifying thing because he's so big, size, mass-wise, going down the lanes. Like, that doesn't look right. But this is a guy who takes off like a step inside the free throw line and dunks, and you're like, oh, he's that kind of athlete. And the stuff that the physical, like Aaron Donald is, to me, the best defensive player of our generation. Just stuff that you just can't do physically. 300 pounds with a 6-pack. Like he just throws people around. The stuff Myles Garrett does is like, it's the freak stuff. Like you don't ever see somebody that big move that fast, be that explosive, be that disruptive. Also, what the hell were the Colts doing blocking him with a tight end?
Well, being dumb. I will never understand why teams are like, yeah, our tight end's got this. I don't care if you have George Kittle. George Kittle isn't going to take Myles Garrett on one-on-one, or a Bosa, or an Aaron Donald. I mean, or a Watt. And this is the thing about it, is like, we are seeing defenses kind of have a resurgence. And one is coordinators and scheme has accounted for spread principles in offenses, and they're getting faster sideline to sideline, and they have adapted to the style of play a little bit more. The other thing, though, is that there are just freaks of nature abound at the pass rusher position.
Bigger, faster, stronger.
And we are not preparing offensive linemen
nearly
for
as well
NFL style of play as we used to. I mean, it just is a completely different preparation. So as pass rushers and skill position players are coming into the NFL more and more ready for the league, the offensive linemen just aren't.
No.
And that is like those things are all colliding at once, and now we're seeing that defenses are fighting back now. And Myles Garrett is a guy that he's been doing this for a few years now, and it's weird because I don't think his reputation it quite recovered from ripping Mason Rudolph's helmet off and beating him with it. But he's not like what we've come to know of Myles Garrett is that like he's not a horrible monster like everybody wanted to paint him in that moment. He's not even the worst monster on his own roster, Deshaun Watson. No. But Myles Garrett is putting up freakish numbers to the point that he tied Reggie White. His 2 sacks that he got, he tied Reggie White for the most sacks before his 28th birthday.
Past Reggie White.
That is Reggie absolutely incredible to think about.
He got to 81, and that's an insane thing. Like when you're talking about as a defensive lineman, and you're in the passing Reggie White category in anything, you are doing something special.
I would say so.
Just truly, absolutely, unbelievably incredible stuff. Just, I don't know, man. I had Red Zone on this weekend, and I was watching the highlights in the Colts Browns. As they're flipping through it, stuff just kept happening and happening.
Mhm.
That game was drunk from the get go.
Yeah.
It was a Gardner Minshew game. And I mean, it was incredible on every level, as far as incredibly bad, but in the best possible way.
Yeah.
You had Myles Garrett making plays. You had Gardner Minshew making plays. You had the dumbest possible turnovers overturned by penalties. It was just one thing after another, after another, after another. You're like, oh, the Colts have got this game wrapped up. DeForest Buckner falls on the ball. No, penalty, going back the other way. Here come the Browns down the other end of the field. And you're just
crazy.
like, what the hell is going on? And by the end of it, you're just like, NFL'd very hard, but Myles Garrett, my goodness, I haven't seen a guy be that disruptive in an NFL game in a long time.
It was a sight to behold. He's just, some of these guys are just so good. And look, on the defensive side of the ball, we're seeing this conversation. We're not even like the halfway point of the NFL season right now, but people want to start saying, hey, that conversation of defensive player of the year. I don't even know where you could start with that conversation, but Myles Garrett has to be at or near the top of it, but the way that he's playing right now. I mean, Garrett, TJ Watt, these guys are having phenomenal. There's actually, you can make the case for about 6 or 7 guys across the league at every level of the defense that could be making the case for Defensive Player of the Year. 503-864-6326. That be the Vancouver Ford text line. Send us your text. Also comment on the YouTube stream, as we are streaming now on youtube.com/1080am, The Fan.
Indeed.
Hey, we have an update to Michigan. Not looking good.
Not great, Bob.
I mean, on the field, they look fantastic. Off the field, it's a mess. It's like Danny from the hips down. It's a disaster.
It is.
Next on The Fan. You remember him? We talked about him. He's a former Marine.
An OnlyFans star.
Dude's got a name built for porn.
Mhm.
But Connor Stallions is now turning over some of his data in his computer, and it looks like Michigan is cooperating with this probe. But Pete Thamel's reporting that Stallions purchased tickets in his own name, which sounds like a fake name. So,
Mhm.
I mean, like, what would his fake name have been? Like,
Rob Smith.
yeah, Rob Smith. For more than 30 games over the last 3 seasons at 11 Big Ten games. That seems like an aggressive amount of games to be going in and taking information from. And not only that, there is a significant paper trail that Thamel is reporting about and video evidence that they are retrieving from his computer of shots at opponents' sidelines in an attempt to steal signals.
Is this guy like walking in with a camera on a tripod?
Like in Michigan gear?
Yeah. What is he doing? That might actually be part of the whole, like, they didn't think they were doing anything wrong part of this.
I honestly believe this, that because of Jim Harbaugh's background,
NFL.
I don't think he thought anything he was doing was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, it is his job to know that is a rule that you cannot advance scout, and that's something you can't do. But it's more of a common practice than people would like to admit in the NFL, that you try to steal your opponent's signs and you do the advanced scouting. And look, that's what the Patriots were dinged for against the Cincinnati Bengals.
They bugged a box.
What?
They bugged the freaking press box.
They that was not proven, but they did find that they videoed the Bengals sidelines, and that was that when they were advanced scouting them, they recorded their signals from the sideline, and that's what they were popped for like a handful of years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. But you have, I think that Harbaugh honestly was like,
if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
I didn't know that was not a thing that we couldn't do in college sports. But we're going to really find out the nuts and bolts of this whole deal, because we already know that staffers are leaking to the media that, look, he had one job and one job only, and it wasn't to be a recruiting analyst like his job title indicated. His job was to decipher what opponent signals were.
This guy was a college football SIGINT analyst. Like, he's going out there and literally doing intel work.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. Also on the Vancouver Ford text line, fantastic text, by the way. It's a shame the state of Michigan doesn't care enough to sue the NCAA like Tennessee does.
Well, there's that. So here's what we have too, is that there is, and they're not saying which Big Ten opponent it is, Rutgers. But
I wonder who.
There was a school that looked up their stadium surveillance footage, and they have Stallions holding up his smartphone, filming the sidelines. Okay, they have him on film doing that. What is wild is that if you go to a game now, it kind of is, it sucks. We have that one picture. Remember the Phil Knight picture where he was the only person not having his phone out when LeBron,
which is why he stood out,
made the scoring, took over the all-time scoring in the NBA. If you go to a football stadium, it's not uncommon to just see people recording
filming,
the entire time.
Yeah.
And so that's, if you're wondering, like, how do you get away with it? You said, do you just walk in with a tripod?
Yeah.
No. He's walked in probably in neutral colors, probably wore like a black jacket or whatever, and then just got his phone out and was recording like everybody else in the stadium does.
See, I would have gone in in home colors.
Yeah, you would have just, so you would have
a lot harder to find.
You would have wore your Rutgers red.
Yeah. Look, go spend $20, go get a Rutgers hat.
Yeah.
Sit in the crowd.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna spy.
Yep. Yeah. So Stallions also had purchased tickets on both sides of the stadium for the Ohio State-Penn State game, according to Thamel as well, this past weekend.
So you can get both sidelines?
So this is what leads me to believe in, like, this was immediately. We read the, what was it, Rust? What was that tweet that somebody put out there that Ryan Day was the whistleblower on all of this, right? That Ryan Day is the guy who got the Big Ten. now that you find out, like, they found Connor Stallions had purchased tickets in his own name
Oh, I bet you they knew.
on both sides of the
Yeah.
stadium. I bet Ryan Day's like, yeah, let's look into this, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you see what Ohio State did on the sidelines?
No.
They had like big towels covering their bench discussions.
Oh,
Over
of
the top.
course. Of course. There's going to be all-time paranoia in the Big
Yeah.
Ten. It's going to be fantastic.
It's just funny because they think it actually matters.
Right. You know what? It wouldn't have been 49-0. Michigan beat Michigan State. If they wouldn't have stole those signals, it would have been like
49-7.
yeah, or 42-0. I don't think Michigan State scored regardless.
No.
But this is just the next step in what will be a long, long, long slog for the NCAA to try and get Jim Harbaugh out of college football.
Go Chargers, go.
Yeah, he may be the head coach of the Chargers. Let's go to the NFL, or from the NFL to college football, though. We talked a lot of NFL this hour. Let's go to the Pac-12. Slow starts plaguing the Conference of Champions this weekend. There's more to it than what is just on the surface. Danny Dusty on the Fan. sees,
Mm.
or something like really cool happens.
Oh,
You know, like he was like he was FaceTiming with Harbaugh, stealing the signals in live in real time. Like if that's happening, I'm in.
you know, the one thing you could get away with a college game is like vape signals.
Oh, yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
the Kreischer Show. So much vaping.
So much vaping.
So much vaping.
Yeah.
Take an edible like an adult.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't want to smell it.
well, are we talking vaping or was it actual like smoking of marijuana?
No,
in
no,
there?
no.
Vaping, so it's like cotton candy scented.
Yeah, it smells bad.
Yeah, it's
Like,
not a good smell.
No, it's just like, buddy, take an edible like the rest of us. It's ridiculous. We don't need to do this anymore. We're civilized.
All right. Let's get to a little college foosball now. The Pac-12, man, this was a week mired by slow starts. And in the Pac-12, it was 3 games in particular that you looked at and you just went, wow, ugly. And when the beginning of the Oregon and Washington State game, it felt very clunky to start. Like it lacked rhythm at the beginning of the game. And it really for both teams, but especially Oregon because of how well they have started this year. And I mean, they've been averaging 13 points per game.
They're one of the best starting
quarters
teams in the country.
In the first quarter, they are one of the leaders
Yes.
nationally in scoring. And you had a field goal apiece heading into the second quarter of that game. And it just felt like it took a lot longer for Oregon's offense to really start warming up and to get going. And give Washington State a ton of credit to that because not a lot of teams have been able to hold Oregon's offense back early in games. But once Oregon did kind of get up off the mat, the third quarter looked a heck of a lot different. Actually, the final 2 drives of the first half and then vaulting into that third quarter looked a lot different for the Ducks. And they end up winning by 2 scores, 38-24. But it felt lethargic coming out of the gate. And then you had in that game being at 12:30, I know that a lot of Duck fans were just kind of like, man, it didn't feel like the same kind of Oregon football team that we've seen. And then we got to see Utah and USC. And USC wasn't able to get up off the mat during that game. And Utah took the fight to them. And it was back-to-back weeks where we've seen Caleb Williams have
Look mortal.
Yeah, not to have subpar performances, but to his standard, subpar performances.
Oh, I mean, the Notre Dame was bad. Notre Dame game was bad. You can call that what it is. There's no doubt about it. But against Utah, there really wasn't much there, and yet Lincoln Riley decided, even though they're averaging 10 yards a carry, to not run the ball, which was mind-blowing to me watching the game back. I was like, wow, they're running the ball really well. I wonder if they're going to keep doing this. And the answer was no. No, they're not. He went into a whole another stratosphere post-game talking about where the program actually is and where they need to be and how they get there.
Boy, that was very one of the ones where when he said that expectations may have gotten to them and the pressure of expectations have affected USC. Do you realize where you're coaching at? Because if that is an issue, then that is far more alarming than you just losing back-to-back games.
Because expectations come with that program. That is a bluest of blue blood programs. And if you're not going to be able to manage those, either you've got to figure that out or you've got to fire your best friend.
Well, they look soft.
They do.
On both sides of the line of scrimmage, they look very soft. And that is one thing that no football team ever wants to hear.
No.
And even when they get a guy like, they go into the portal and they've plucked out, some of the best offensive linemen. They've gotten some of the best defensive linemen. Bear Alexander, look, as good as he was in that game, he was detrimental to them.
Yes.
And, getting ejected for targeting. He had another personal foul earlier in the second half where it was just like, okay, come on, man. Like, you got to play within yourself. He's a really good player, but
he lost control
on two scoring drives for Utah.
Yeah, kept them alive. That's the thing is, every time it seemed like USC had a little something, they screwed themselves, or they let a quarterback who can't throw complete a throw and then break it big.
And then you had in the nightcap, you had Washington, which did not score an offensive touchdown in the game.
It was their first win without an offensive touchdown since 2000.
And Arizona State
Should have won that game.
damn near won the football. They should have. Like
But let's
that,
be honest, it was pass interference.
I think we did figure out this morning that it was their first regular season win without an offensive touchdown.
Because they did in the bowl game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
But they should have. Arizona State. Why you throw that flag and then pick it up? It is beyond me.
That was Saints Rams level of bad. Like,
yeah.
like there wasn't it wasn't in the frame like hand fighting good stuff. You know, you go, oh, that was good by the DB. He hit that really well. No, we saw the full yoink back. And like, I don't know how you go under the hood. I do not.
You don't go under the hood. I mean, that's a slippery slope.
I mean, on that, that's.
Yeah.
I don't know how. What I'm saying is, I don't know how you pick that flag up. I don't know how. I don't know what world exists where you pick that flag up.
I don't get it either.
It was egregious. It wasn't. This wasn't like it wasn't a borderline call.
Mm-hmm.
It was egregious, and it wasn't. Oh, if you slow it down, you can see the finger grasp the face mask, so it's the 15-yard. It's like, no, you saw the pads get exposed because his jersey got yanked so far back.
Oh man!
Also, Bo Scatabo's fun to watch.
And he's got a cool name.
Scatabo.
He's got a very cool name. It is fun to say, and he is fun to watch. They are horrific offensively, though.
They just don't have a lot to work with.
Talk about a bare cupboard, and I give Kenny Dillingham a ton of credit, man. I give that young coach a ton of credit. He's only 34 years old.
Yeah, he's young.
And he is getting those guys to play every single damn week. And they were up against it up in Washington last week. But if you take those 3 games that we just talked about with teams that they were all favored, and Oregon handled their business. They didn't cover, but they ended up winning by 14. You have Washington come out by the hair of their chinny chin chin, and USC takes a loss.
Walked off.
That
kickers
is something that if you extrapolate it and you go one step further and look at the Big 12 coming off of a rivalry game, both Texas and Oklahoma.
UCF, that onside kick, they just missed it.
They were in tight games, and it is something that we talked about last week, but it bears repeating, is that the emotion of a rivalry game, the magnitude of those games, what they mean to you, and when you have a close game,
North Carolina
off
the Miami game, they fall to Virginia.
It is something that it's draining, it's taxing, and you get that sigh of relief, and you're just like, whew, okay, we got through that. It's really hard to get back up the next week and carry it over. And I think that we saw that, especially with the 3 teams in the Pac-12, where USC off of the loss against Notre Dame beat them twice. Make no mistake about it.
It was a woodshed.
I love what Bryson Barnes did. Their defense at Utah is incredible. Like, I mean, they are incredible again. Kyle Whittingham, he just keeps on doing it, man. Those linebackers, 20 and 21, I think one of them is named Reed. Amazing. Sione Vaki playing both sides of the ball at running back and safety.
Because their running backs, they're missing their top 3 running backs.
We didn't talk about, like we talked about with Travis Hunter. I don't know how he's going to do it. That's at a far less demanding position. Physically than what Vaki is being asked to do, because
cardio,
he's asking to be a guy who plays in the box on defense and be in run support, and then to bear the load of being a running back at Division I football. I don't know how he is doing it.
He's a dude.
I honestly do not know, and I don't know how long he can hold up, because he is incredible at both sides of the ball. But
it's paper clips and chewing gum are holding that team together right now with their injuries.
But USC is more talented.
Yes.
USC is the more talented team.
There's no doubt there.
And they were at home. And they let that one slip between their fingertips. And Utah owns them between the ears.
Oh, there's no doubt about that now. That's 3 straight.
It's 4 in a row, but 3 straight against Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
And this is where you look at it and you say Utah's not going anywhere, folks. No. Cam Rising, Brant Keithy, both done for the year. They're not going to be playing this year for Utah.
Get ready, Big 12.
But but that game was a hangover from the rivalry game. Oregon's slow start and able to refocus and hone back in and win by 2 scores against Washington State. That was at the beginning, that was a hangover from the week before. Mm-hmm. And I don't, whether Coach Lanning and the team want to admit it or not, like you looked at it and you could see it because we saw it with Washington for 60 full minutes, man. It is something that is really hard to do, is to get up the week following an emotional game that is physically taxing. And you saw 3 teams in the Pac-12 affected by it.
Yeah, week after week, that's football in a nutshell. And it's not unique to just the kids. We just saw it in the NFL where week after week after week after week, eventually sometimes you just get got.
Yeah.
You're banged up. Maybe you're not feeling great, just getting up for it. Maybe somebody's got a game plan for you. Maybe somebody's got a little extra chip on their shoulder. Maybe you just had a bad week, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, do I think any less of the Lions because they got mopped by the Ravens? No.
No, shouldn't change your opinion of them.
I just think the Ravens had a hell of a week, and Lamar Jackson was maybe the best player in football this weekend.
All right.
That kind of thing happens even in college football.
Got a couple pieces of audio left over from the Pac-12 weekend that I would love to get to, including those comments that you said that Lincoln Riley had, because there's 2 coaches in college football that you may have to take a look at and say, all right, how much has changed? Next on The Fan. games at Texas A&M. Kevin Sumlin was 45-22, while Jimbo Fisher through 67 games is 43-24. Right, pretty. Actually, he's worse than his predecessor was.
Weird.
And
also someone was liked a lot more.
They're trying to get rid of $75 million of dead weight at
Good luck.
A&M. And then he follows that tweet up on the backside of it saying, through 22 games at USC, Clay Helton 17-5, Lincoln Riley 17-5. How about that? And now people are saying, well, is Lincoln Riley, is he the guy for USC?
Yes.
Because you mentioned what he said in the postgame, kind of going all over the place. He was talking painting with a broad stroke when talking about his team.
My job to get better just like everybody else. I've had a okay track record calling plays, so confident in my ability and our ability to do that. But we got to all be better for each other. That's called football. Like, you're all in it together. I'll never sit up here and say I did it all right and guys made the mistakes. We're all in it together, and our success is tied together. Our failures are tied together, and so we got to all come back to work tomorrow with our heads up, ready to get better and go attack this challenge. And I can promise you, this team and program will get that out of their head coach.
Can I just say, maybe they should just give it a try. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, Coach Riley. Fire your defensive coordinator.
You think that'll be the Band-Aid?
I don't think it would be the Band-Aid. I think it would be a very big step in the right direction.
Yeah.
The inconsistencies on that side of the ball, there's no wiggle room. None.
The one thing, though, is that these are the same issues that they had at Oklahoma. And, like, this is where you have a young head coach and you're working through a lot of things. I just wonder how much is tied to the defensive coordinator and how much is tied to the style of play, top to bottom.
Sure. I mean, you can say that about their time of possession and that they're asked to be on the field too much. They're not deep enough. That's fine. Those can all be true. But there are also other programs in this country that are running the same kind of styles and are successful in it. And that shows you that it's not this thing that's impossible to do. It's maybe harder to do, but it's not. You look at the class that they brought in, the group of guys, the transfers they brought in, everyone across the country, there's nobody who's like, no, they didn't do enough on that side of the ball in the transfer portal. They went and got basically every damn good defensive player they could in the portal. Guys that made sense, bigger, stronger, faster, got more junk in the trunk. So you're not getting bullied around, because that defensive line last year was light. They were 250-pound light across the board. They had nobody to anchor them anywhere.
Yeah.
So they were just getting mauled at the point of attack. They aren't getting mauled at the point of attack. They're blowing tackles in the backfield. They're undisciplined. Their coverages aren't matching what they need to be doing against their opponents.
I don't think that is all. I don't think that's all coaching. I honestly, I don't. And Alex Grinch, he does not appear to be the answer there.
No.
But I also think of it as maybe there's a disconnect with talent evaluation too, and fitting into the scheme, because like USC had a truly a bad year recruiting under Clay Helton. 2020 was disastrous. They were one of the worst in the country.
Those are your seniors now.
They were dead last. Well, yeah, no, I mean they're COVID years. Everybody, there's guys from 2018 that are still playing.
True.
But, I mean, guys that are still eligible to be playing for this team in this roster, you're looking at Clay Helton had the number 4 recruiting class in the country, which was first in the Pac-12.
And if you go back and look at that class, it was not good.
He had the number 19 recruiting class in the country, which was third in the conference. He had then the 2020 year, which was very bad, which they finished dead last in the Pac-12 in recruiting, where they only had 12 roster spots available.
Because that was the last year of the sanctions.
And then they finished second in the Pac-12, 7th nationally in 2021, Clay Helton's final recruiting class. So in all of this, in 3 of the 4 years prior to Lincoln Riley, the worst that they finished was 12th. But in 3 of the 4 years, you were third in the conference is the worst that you finished. And so with that, it's not like it was a bare cupboard. And then what they went and did in the portal was they cleaned house and they brought in all of their guys, and they had the luxury of doing that too. And that's why I say, you know, it might be one part Alex Grinch, but one part talent evaluator too, because if you looked at what Brent Venables had to do last year, he went 4-8 because, well, I don't know, the 3 best players on the team left with Lincoln Riley. Okay. But then also it was a complete restructure of the defensive talent on that team. And they had to go and they had to change everything. And what happened now is we're looking at year 2 of Brent Venables' Oklahoma with all new talent on the defensive side of the ball. And there's where I sit there and I go, well, it may be a disconnect in the evaluation of talent then that is also affecting USC, because Oklahoma revamped things and they went to the portal and they went to development, and it looks completely different this year.
Yeah, USC has not had a problem identifying offensive talent.
Yeah.
No way, shape, matter, form. But you go back and look at those Clay Helton recruiting classes, that's where I start not believing in the recruiting rankings, because if you look at those groups, those classes, those guys, those top recruits they had in, none of them panned out. You go through like the top 3, top 4 in those classes for
that
4 years in a row. And that's what I'm saying. For those 4 years in a row, you're going, that wasn't a dude. That wasn't a dude. That wasn't a dude. And you start looking at their 5 stars that or the high 4s that they landed. Almost none of them panned out.
Yeah.
And you just go, shh, which is where you talk about the depth issues with USC, because they brought in all those transfers because Lincoln Riley said it. I mean, he said last year, he said the nicer version of Deion's, I brought Louis. We just didn't have enough here. We didn't have enough high-end guys here. And then this year, they came out and said, you know, our defense is lacking. So we went out and we got a little bit bigger. We got a little bit longer. We got a little bit stronger in the trenches.
I have an idea.
We got a Heisman Trophy winner quarterback, and so they're going to make some things, and that's just the way it is. But we got ourselves a pig farmer at quarterback. So we're proud of that guy, too, and love him.
Kyle Whittingham. Maybe they should get a pig farmer or 2.
Look, give me some pig farmer offensive linemen.
They need some pig farmers. Well, they had a quarterback, and that's what won. And Bryson Barnes, like that, I still can't believe he threw for that many yards.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, Sione Vaki out of the backfield, I think he was their leading receiver. I think he went over 100 out of the backfield.
Yes.
But
because he had the 2 big plays.
And that goes a long way to his 253 that Bryson Barnes threw for.
Yeah, he had 150 of it he had a 53-yarder, and I think he had a 40-yarder.
That is like that young man running behind his pads though. Bryson Barnes was a dude. Like Bryson Barnes just said, "Hop on. I'm going to carry you today."
Oh, he broke their back so many different times on second longs, third and shorts. We're just like, you got to be kidding me.
He was like, this Utah team had built in Kyle Whittingham's, shadow is all about what is great from college football. You have guys that are pig farmers from Milford, Utah, who is a walk-on working at Lowe's, in the off season, and now became a scholarship guy. You're on your 3rd and 4th string quarterback, and you go into the mighty Coliseum and you knock off USC. That is incredible. And their development of talent is second to none in college football. Second to none.
It's not like this isn't a one-off. They do this every year.
Every dang year.
Unbelievable. Well, what is believable? Go find an NFL veteran who's been on a very bad team for a number of years, and then go put a microphone in his face after a very bad game. But first, here's a SportsCenter update with the Big Kahuna.
Hamburgers, the cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast.
loss at the hands of the Eagles. They have a 20-point loss at the hands of the Bears. They have handed Desmond Ridder his first home loss since he was in high school, actually a junior in high school.
Yes.
And they have a good coach. They have a good head coach in Ron Rivera. Not a great. He's a good head coach, and yet they just are one of the best worst teams
They
ever.
have just enough talent.
Yeah.
Like Sam Howell's like a replacement level quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you put him on most teams, he's gonna be okay.
He's gonna be all right.
He's like you're not worried about him. Like he's a step.
would be.
I think he's a step above backup. I think he's a starting caliber quarterback, like right on the edge. But
Yeah. But sometimes he looks like he is a legitimate starter, and other times he looks like he should be working at Lowe's like Bryson Barnes.
fair. And I think that kind of sums up who they are. They have Terry McLaurin, who's a fantastic wide receiver, and
Sometimes.
and they have Jonathan Allen, who's a fantastic pass rusher, sometimes. And the Commanders lost 14-7 to the woeful New York Giants. Shout out Tyrod Taylor, better than Daniel Jones. They got what they asked for, and they got Jonathan Taylor in the postgame.
What's the evaluation like after a loss like that?
They whooped our ass, plain and simple. Got to be better.
Anything they did that surprised you guys early on?
No, I want to say so. I think it's just a lack of focus on our part, a lack of attention to detail, not starting fast, and creating holes that are too big for us to overcome in the second half.
Does it get frustrating when that team...
Yes, it does. I'm fucking tired of this. Fucking tired of this bull. It's been 7 fucking years of the same. Tired of this.
What can you do now going forward to get it turned around?
Get our minds right and get ready to play fucking Philadelphia.
That is a man that has been holding it in. Think about that. He's been there for 7 years. Which 7 years with one team in the NFL is an eternity.
Wow. That guy is done.
Imagine what Joe Thomas must have been feeling with the Browns.
Right. But Joe Thomas was like somehow happy. And somehow he came out of it on the other side feeling all right. Jonathan Allen, though, just think of this. He is this mad. In the first 6 years, it was with Dan Snyder as the owner. Like, it was exponentially worse.
Well, I bet you what it is that they went full oh God, what's the movie?
I have no idea.
Crawling Through a Mile of Crap.
Shawshank.
Shawshank.
Yeah.
You went full Andy Dufresne.
Yeah.
Shawshank. Got rid of Dan Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
Love and life.
Yeah, now you got to get to Mexico.
Yeah. The problem is you're hitchhiking.
Yeah. Nobody, that's what we never got to, is how they got to Mexico.
Yeah.
We know they got there,
Mhm.
but that's a long journey to get to Mexico.
It is. Shawshank to Mexico, not a hop, skip, and a jump.
No, but you did get out of the turd pipe.
Yeah.
And now you just got to find your way. And I think that is what he's going through right now. And I think that's what all of the Washington Commanders are going through right now, is how you find a way back to relevancy and back to just consistency. And that's a really hard thing to find. And look, Dan Snyder was a terrible owner and not a great dude. But when you have a common thing to rally around, it makes it a lot easier. You have it, like, there is a little bit of like the major league of, we're going to rally around this owner who doesn't believe in us, doesn't really care about us, kind of wants us to lose and just collect a check. And then you're just like, you know what? Hey, all we can control is what we can control, and that's us. Now you think you get out of that and you exhale a little bit. It's kind of like we were just talking about with the rivalry games in college football, how those hangovers in that emotional kind of roller coaster you go on and how draining that is for the following week. They're coming out of the other side of like 20 plus years of that with the Commanders. And maybe this year's their big exhale season where they're like, wait, we thought that this was over. And no, we still have to go through everything that comes along with the long slog of an NFL season and actually winning football games.
Yeah, figuring that next part out is honestly, it's the more difficult part.
I bet.
But as you can hear from Jonathan Allen, the thing about this, have you seen the video?
Yeah.
Chest out,
Yeah.
just he's That's a man who's going through things.
Yeah, he's got a couple buttons unbuttoned. He's got the sunglasses on inside. He's got his AirPods in. He's just staring holes through anybody who wants to come and talk to him. And I think those reporters for NBC4 in DC, I think they knew that they were going to be getting a fired up version of Jonathan Allen.
He was a walking, talking Black Air Force One.
I just hope that was live. And there was just some poor producer pulling a Jeff Rustin there, just panicking, just like,
just hitting just endlessly
I have no idea
dumping.
what to do. And then you just give up and you're like, yeah, whatever. Whatever he's going to say, he's going to say.
Time to brush up that resume.
Yep.
That's not your fault.
That's why you don't go live from the locker room.
That's right. For various reasons.
At least not without a wicked delay.
Those the swear words are only part of the reason.
Yeah, no, that towel will drop it,
Yeah.
real quick.
Uh-oh.
Then you're definitely in for the long and the short of it.
Yes, you are.
There we go. I broke rust. Perfect. All right, coming up next, it's that time of the week, Monday. It's time for our Pac-12 quarterback rankings coming out of a funky, smelly, ugly weekend in the Pac-12, and yet still better than what we saw from the Big Ten quarterbacks.
Woo-hoo.
Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Monday afternoon.
We have movement. We have movement.
Every spot moved except for one.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What spot is the one that didn't move?
DJ.
At number 5. Yeah, DJ Uyunglele. We have him at number 5. And look, Beavs were on a bye this week. Remember, these are power rankings. And power rankings mean that they change from week to week. This is not who I believe is the best quarterback in the Pac-12 over the course of a season. This is the power rankings of this past week in the kind of the couple of weeks leading up to it. There's a lot of movement that can happen in this because DJ is at number 5. The Beavs had a bye this past week, and another guy who would be vying for that 4th, 5th spot is Shedeur Sanders. He didn't play this weekend either. So I have DJ in at number 5. He is, the last couple of weeks, has been very consistent for Oregon State. And when you take care of the football better, guess what? You start moving on up. And that 266 yards and a couple of tutties against UCLA. They're still holding on for DJ at number 5. Number 4, I got Cameron Ward. Look, the Cougs may have lost, but it wasn't because of Cam Ward. That guy did it with his arms. He did it with his legs. He went 34 of 48, 438 yards and a tutty, and had 11 carries for 30 yards to boot. He kept them in the game, man. And look, if you take sack yards out of it, I think he was over 50 yards rushing for the Cougs. I was so impressed with Cameron Ward and his ability to create and continue to be that dude for Washington State. Number 3, buddy, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams. This isn't an indicator on what I think of Caleb Williams overall, but he has had 2 games back-to-back that are not to the Caleb Williams standard. The first one was a 3-interception performance. This one was a 24 of 34 game, 256 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
It was very meh. Utah was fantastic.
They were.
Open field tackling and kept everything underneath.
He did have 27 yards and a touchdown. That quarterback draw, beautifully executed by him to give the go-ahead touchdown. Thought it would have been an eventual game winner. It was not because the defense can't stop anybody. But Caleb Williams I have at number 3. Number 2, I'm moving Bo Nix on up, because it was 18 of 25, another game where he was absolutely fantastic, efficient, 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and added a couple rushes for a couple of yards to go along with it, and a touchdown rush. When you look at what Bo Nix has done, he has been the model of consistency, even in the loss against Washington, right? 33 of 44. 337 yards in 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He takes such great care of the ball. We're now 3 weeks in a row without turning the ball over. He didn't take a sack this week. He's only got sacked 3 times in the last 5 games. He has been outstanding for the Oregon Ducks. I have him at number 2. And number 1, although this team did not score an offensive touchdown, I've just been so impressed all season long with Michael Penix Jr. He had 2 interceptions, but 275 yards passing, and they got the win. When his team needs him, Michael Penix Jr. is going to be there for him. And although these are power rankings, he could slide down if he has another performance like this. And Bo Nix has another efficient one, especially on the road at Utah. But right now, Penix is the class of the conference at the quarterback position, and they found a way to win. They're 7-0 on the year. And 15-7 win. It doesn't have to be pretty. All it has to be is a win. Michael Penix Jr. is so damn fun to watch. Look, all 5 of these quarterbacks on this list are fun to watch.
Absolutely.
6th and 7th on this list would be Shedeur Sanders and Bryson Barnes, too, with the way that Barnes has been playing for Utah, because you just have to survive, right? Like, we get so caught up in it being sexy, but survival,
because it's sexy every week
in this conference when you have a high level of play. Like being sexy in the Pac-12 last year, that's what it was, because the conference wasn't very good.
No.
The Pac-12 is legitimately good. There are 7 decent teams in the conference this year. Colorado isn't one of them. Shedeur Sanders is good.
Yes.
Colorado isn't one of them. Arizona is.
Yes.
Arizona is one of those teams. UCLA
Hell, by
is
transitive
one of those
property,
teams.
they should be probably one of the best teams in the conference.
Arizona is... Beavs got them. I know why Oregon State fan is concerned about that game.
Yeah,
they
should be.
They should be concerned about
the
that game.
team that should have beaten USC and took Washington to the limit. Yeah.
It's more than that, though. I mean, Arizona has had 3 consecutive weeks where they've only got one win to show for it, and it's against Washington State. But what they've been able to do with the 3 most potent offensive attacks, or 3 of the most potent offensive attacks in the conference, especially through the air. Washington, they lose 31-24.
Yep.
USC, they lose on the road 43-41.
In double OT.
At Washington State, they win 44-6.
Drubbing.
6 points. Think of what Cameron Ward is and what he's been able to do. Think of, like, they got into it. They've done it in different ways too. That shootout that they got into with USC.
Cam Ward just threw for 438 against Oregon.
What they are able to do it's pretty impressive because talent-wise, they are nowhere close to the 3 teams that they have gone toe-to-toe with, and one that they just absolutely took to the woodshed in Washington State. They are not as good from a talent standpoint, but they're finding a way to be on the field. Jed Fish is one hell of a coach, and they're buying what he's selling down there in Tucson. That's a scary one for the Oregon State Beavers because everybody knows this. USC knows this. Oregon knows this. Washington knows this. Tucson, Arizona can be a house of horrors. And this is going to be 7:30 kick in Tucson.
It's the last place you want to play a night game.
It's going to get weird
100%.
in the desert.
Can I just say, totally unrelated?
Yeah.
Those Washington helmets this weekend with the gold W,
Yeah.
loved them.
You like them.
Love them. They're so used to being the flat matte team.
Yeah.
That gloss and
Chrome gold.
the chrome
Or
gold.
chrome purple and gold. Yeah.
And with the gold numbers that were also kind of chromed out on the jerseys.
Yeah.
They don't usually do that, and I thought it was a nice little change up.
I like the helmets. I'd like to see them on road uniforms, though, because here's my pet peeve. Is when, like, I didn't like it when Oregon State, the orange on the helmet didn't even come close to
hues
the
aren't
orange
close.
on the jersey. That got me with UW. I like the helmet a lot. I think it's an awesome look.
I wonder if they
And I
do the
like
chrome white
I like
helmet.
the uniforms a lot too, but it's a totally different color of purple.
Yeah.
Just like the Beavs, it was a totally different color of orange. I don't like it when it doesn't match. The one uniform that used to bother me the most was Wisconsin. Under Armour fixed it.
Oh.
Wisconsin used to have like a W on their helmet that was like 4 shades darker than their jerseys, and it always would piss me off.
Like one
because
was
their
like
look.
blood red, and the other one was like 1080 the fan red.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you're watching on YouTube,
Yeah.
it's like the difference from the very top of the
the
red
bottom.
to the bottom. That was about the difference.
That always bugged me. Under Armour took over as their uniform manufacturer, and
So
they
we're gonna
fixed it.
fix that.
They remedied it. It looks fantastic now.
Take a paint swatch.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yes.
Right?
Like you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever it is.
Did you just
Probably
go
both of them.
Mahomes Depot?
Mahomes Depot. You can do whatever. I don't know which one it is, whether it's Lowe's or Depot or Home Depot. You can just take it and they have swatches for all the NFL teams.
Yeah, that's
Major League
that's
Baseball and NBA.
yeah.
And you'd be like, I'm making my man cave.
I wanted to match exactly this. You can actually pull the number.
yeah, the Pantones or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is. Just make it look the same.
I like it. I like where you're at.
It's not that hard.
Well, it's about that time. It's become it's a bit of a reckoning here for Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. Maybe more for Justin Herbert. Coming up next here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
I'm Michael Jenkins, helping you beat the books with BetQL. One last game.
I went and I was looking up because I'll be heading down to Salt Lake City, Utah for Oregon, Utah. And I was looking at the weather down there.
Ooh.
And I was going, oh, man, it's going to be like 52. And then, or no, it's like 56 degrees. And then I looked at our own local weather. I'm like, damn, it's going to be warmer in Salt Lake City than it is in Portland.
It's putting 43 now.
Well, oh, great. Fantastic. I love being cold. It's awesome. That's not that bad.
Sir,
I'll take that. Is there 43 and sunny? It's a dry cold.
Why don't you take this extra pair of gloves?
Wait, you've had two? You mean to tell me you've had 2 pairs of gloves this whole time?
Yeah, we're in the Rockies.
It's no different than sitting in this studio right now. Danny has this thing as an ice box. He's wearing a sweatshirt and pants, and he's like, I don't know. It's like a meat locker.
I swear, these studios, it is impossible to regulate the temperature.
This time when I came in, it was 64.
Yeah.
And I didn't touch it because I was like, yes, good. For those that don't know, somebody in the morning who will remain nameless because they keep lying about it, either Dirt or Sprague.
Well, Dirt wasn't here today.
So we know who it was. It was Dirt because it's cold in here.
Yeah.
We've come in here before. It's been at 76.
Yikes.
And I've wanted to murder him. I walk in here and you're like,
Because we're in here and the cold air just blows directly on me sitting here.
Yeah,
And I'm not a person who gets cold much, but it gets chilly.
oh, I love it. I love walking in here and having
I can cut glass in here.
Ooh.
I just want that to be a clean drop.
Yeah, no,
I'm just sitting back, just making sure nobody says anything. I'm not going to be the guy that steps on that drop.
Give you a second to grab that one. You know what? It might be glass cutting time in old Los Angeles because the nervous tension is building.
I think it's break glass in case
time?
of emergency.
It's not just Staley. Yes, Patrick Mahomes turned the Chargers into a redheaded stepchild and absolutely abused them over and over and over again, going to Travis Kelce, endlessly tormenting them. Justin Herbert was bad.
You know what? Before we get to Herbert, he was bad. Back-to-back weeks, not good at all. I saw something that blew my mind. Today's show this morning, they did the Taylor Swift update on her movie being #1 in the box office.
Yes, with 100% review. Nobody has given it a negative review yet.
Well, my daughter went to it with one of her friends yesterday, and there's like video of her dancing. Like you're supposed to get up and start dancing at the movie theater. Yeah, like it's a concert.
This is a cult.
Yeah, it's crazy. But on the Today Show, they were talking.
This one's harmless.
That is, you say that now.
It's debatable.
You say that now, Rust.
Till they mobilize into their own army.
Yeah.
Until Travis Kelce breaks up with her.
And then the NFL's doomed.
Yeah.
But they did this whole thing on her movie is #1 in the box office. She went to another Chiefs game. She was wearing the friendship bracelet that had 2 hearts and 87 on it. But they tagged out this report with, Taylor's been to 4 Chiefs games this year, and the Kansas City Chiefs are 4-0 in those games. It's like, yeah, they're really good.
They're really good.
Guess what they did last year? They won the Super Bowl last year. It's amazing.
The only game they lost was to the Lions opening week. And here we are.
They seem to be like, hey, Taylor's the magic. She's the lucky charm that they got going on here. No.
It's a lovely story about the Chiefs, the plucky newcomer on the scene.
This Travis Kelce was a nobody in the NFL before Taylor came along, and look at him, he had 179 yards. It's amazing.
Great for Travis Kelce on the come up.
They do say that in the games that she hasn't attended, he's averaging like 46 or 48 yards a game. And
it's true because the first 2 games of the season, he didn't
Yeah.
get any targets, and then he got a little banged up. So, but Justin Herbert also not good.
No,
he needs a Taylor Swift in his life. Maybe it's a Travis Kelce in his life. Maybe it's an Andy Reid in his life. Back-to-back weeks, he has not just been like just meh. He's been bad.
He's been a big reason why they're losing games, and that is something that you couldn't really say too much before. I mean, of course there are games where there will be games every quarterback plays during a season where they will be not very good and they will cost their team, but.
Honestly, it's 3 straight weeks because he was not good against the Raiders either.
It is when you look at Justin Herbert and there's a disconnect with not just Herbert, but this entire team, man. And everybody feeds off of the quarterback. And the quarterback has got to be better. And whether it is missing reads or forcing the ball in places that he should not be throwing the football. And look,
Holding onto it too long.
There's also an element of teams baiting Justin Herbert now, knowing that he knows that he's got a howitzer attached to his shoulder, and he knows exactly where he can put the ball. And they're trying to say, all right, bet. I dare you to. And what teams have been doing now when you're playing you're getting more and more too high looks to take away the deep ball, it has taken away what he wants to do a whole heck of a lot of. Also, I think this team, there's a large degree of you have a team that is quitting on their coach.
Oh, they're fundamentally broken from the inside.
But that doesn't explain some of the throws that we're seeing from Herbert. And I kind of feel like we're at this pivot point where you got to start winning games or that criticism is going to be wholly warranted.
Deafening.
And it is, look, he's not playing well. He isn't.
No, he's had 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions over his last 3 games.
It's brutal.
And in those 3 games, he hasn't completed over 60% of his passes.
Yep.
That's poor quarterback play.
Yeah. And I think that one thing, we're all talking about Herbert playing poorly this week, but the Chiefs' defense is really good this year. And I think
it's
that
definitely better than we've anticipated from them before.
There is a change in what Kansas City has been doing, and everybody's like comparing, the Russell Wilson to Patrick Mahomes stats and be like, see, Russ isn't that bad this year. Well, no, the Kansas City Chiefs are playing complementary football more so this year than they have in years past.
Yeah, they aren't saying Patrick won us the game over and over again.
But guess what Patrick Mahomes went out and did yesterday?
He went out and won the game because he threw for 424 and 4 tutties and slung that thing all over the park.
In 300 yards in the first half.
Yeah.
Because they went out and they embarrassed Brandon Staley in that defense. And I think that there's an element of when you know as an offense that your defense is not going to be able to hold up their end of the bargain, which is wild to think about because of the names and the talent that they have defensively.
Oh, and their head coach being a defensive-minded coach?
It is absolutely infuriating if you are a Chargers fan to watch them on defense, where you have every single level. You have dudes, whether it's Derwin James, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa. You have got guys, Asante Samuel Jr. You are loaded on the defense side of the ball. Yet, you are terrible week in and week out, man. I think that what we're looking at is a regression of Justin Herbert, no doubt. A team that has totally quit on Brandon Staley, and Staley even admitted it. Brandon Staley admitting it after the game that they've got a lot of soul searching to do.
The blame is mine, no one else's. So I just got to do a better job of getting us off to a good start in the game, and that's not what happened. I thought, the first possession we were able to get him stopped, but then after that we were on our heels. Asante got the big pick, but then that score before the half was kind of a killer. And then we settled down in the second half and played well. But it was kind of our first half on defense and our second half on offense just weren't good enough for us to win.
Remind me again, is going scoreless in the second half getting your offense going in the second half?
No.
What the hell is he talking about?
No. Well, he's just saying that they weren't good enough in their second half.
He just said they got settled
No.
in
He
the
says
second
we
half.
need to get our offense going in the second
Oh,
half.
okay. I thought he said we got our offense going in the
No.
second half, and I was like, what
didn't.
on earth is he talking about?
No. He said we got to get our offense going because when they didn't throw an interception in the second half, they went 3 and out.
Yeah, I was saying they were atrocious in the second half.
That is not hyperbole. They went 11 plays, 73 yards, interception, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 9 plays, 28 yards, interception. Those are their second half possessions.
How the hell do you go 28 yards on 9 plays?
Penalties. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. So
goodness.
they're going through some demons here. And it's the worst thing that you can have as a team, and you're hearing the head coach, when you have we got to do some soul searching.
That's you're done. Like,
Yeah.
when a coach says it's all on me, that you can only say that so many times. How many times have we heard him say that this year? Not just this year, but in the last couple of years. This is on me. This is on me. This
A
is
lot,
on me.
and I like it because it is most like when he
you're
had the
taking blame
fourth
for your
down
players, sure.
blunders that he has had.
Yes.
Then yes, that is on him. But we've also seen a lot different. We've seen them lose in a variety of ways, and right now it does appear as if the team has lost their faith in their coach, and that sucks because Brandon Staley is a good dude, and his players do like him, but there's a lot of coaches in the NFL where their players don't have to like him. They have to have faith in him as the leader of men and the leader of the football team, and I think that is starting to wane, or it has waned for weeks now, and I think it's been lost, and that sucks. That sucks for him. It sucks for all the Chargers, man.
I shouldn't say nobody ever wants to see somebody get fired because there's two people in my world that I want to see get fired. But not you two.
What? Are you gonna say out loud?
Josh McDaniels and Alex Grinch.
Oh, okay. I was like, who are we going with here?
No.
Wow. All right.
No, I want to see them fired. I don't want them to see them. I don't want to see them running teams that I care about. I hope they land on their feet somewhere. I want to see them fired fully. Like I know it makes me a bad person, but I'm willing to go with it.
Yeah. All right.
Hey,
at least you're honest with yourself.
I want them gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's an unfortunate situation to be in, but I don't understand teams at any level. Like I understand you don't want to pull the ripcord too soon, but when you've got multiple years of the same stupid, I don't understand how you don't I do in the Chargers case because their ownership is cheap and they don't want to pay a guy to not coach.
Right.
But pull the cord, man.
Well, we have, and these are the things that when I look at guys like, Dan Lanning has been under fire for his decisions on fourth down.
Sure.
He's been true to them though, and there is an element of, I think Oregon fans forget he's a second-year head coach, and there is a learning curve to being a head coach, and what that looks like when you got to make some mistakes and grow from them.
No, we talked about that before. He played a single game or coached a single game for this team.
It is when you have continued the mistakes, the same ones over several years, and a lack of growth, and that is what that's what we're seeing in
meltdown after meltdown after meltdown. It's like, look, as a coach,
learn from the mistakes.
Yeah, you're allowed to have meltdowns. It's allowed to occur.
Yep.
And yet, there to quote Kevin Garnett, you only get so many wiggles.
That's right.
You don't get infinite wiggles.
Yeah, you got to do something with them.
And
James Harden's still not in Philly.
Yeah, we'll talk about that maybe. We'll work that in somehow. Maybe we'll say that for tomorrow.
Yeah.
When he doesn't report for their first game of the season.
Which is going to happen.
It's going to happen. Well, from one quarterback in Justin Herbert, who has kind of avoided the disdain or the lack of negative reviews, to a quarterback who has gotten them frequently and often in Josh Allen, who is playing better than Herbert, certainly, but there's something wrong in Buffalo. We'll get to that and more coming over on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. they march up and down the field on what is supposed to be a very good Bills defense.
I said this last week that Mac Jones is good enough to win you games in the NFL. Like, he is not elite, but he is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, he is. And he has been on the struggle bus, but there have been a lot of reasons why this team has been on the struggle bus this year outside of just Mac Jones. Their offensive line has been an absolute disaster, and they actually held up yesterday where they only gave up 1 sack. And their receiving core has a bunch of 2s, not enough number 1s, right? Or any. What Mac Jones in the Patriots got, though, yesterday was right out of the gate. I mean, it was immediate.
Mm-hmm.
You march down the field, you get a field goal, and you're feeling okay about where you're at, right? You always want to get 6 instead of 3, but you get points on the board. And then the first play of the game,
yoink.
I don't know what Josh Allen saw, and like we're kind of going over this. It's almost the same thing that you're seeing with Justin Herbert, but there isn't a full team just being out on their head coach.
No.
What you have with Josh Allen is you have a guy who, again, has one of the strongest arms in the entire NFL.
I'd say the strongest.
And you're seeing a bunch of teams try to bait him into making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what the Patriots did. Playing cover 2, they have 2 safeties over the top, and you have Allen, who thinks that he has the layered out route coming back behind the secondary. They're going to hold the corner up with a 5-yard out, and they're going to go 15-yard out behind him.
Mm-hmm.
The corner read it the entire way, and he jumped off of that 5 and said, we'll rally to that one. I'm going to make sure I can pick this off. Very first pass attempt, interception. Set the entire tone for the game. And what we're seeing with Josh Allen is Brian Daboll is missed by Josh Allen.
100%. The quarterback whisperer that kept him on the rails, because Josh Allen bracketed the game in turnovers. His very first touch is an interception, and the last one is they don't even get anything off.
Yeah.
They don't even get the chance to throw one, to actually throw one deep, because you get the fumble.
Yeah.
And it's just, look, I love Josh Allen. I think he's fantastic. In the pantheon of quarterback play in the NFL, when you're talking about the 3 best with Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. Burrow has always been the guy to me that I just trust more. I know where Allen has been and the plays that he has made and the back and forth they've had with the Chiefs. But Burrow, with the exception of this year in the calf, has been the guy that I think you could just rely on being the steadier Eddie, right?
Yeah.
Just making the plays, just tick, 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 tick. Josh Allen has the ability to make the explosive play with both his legs and his arm. But he also has the ability to make the explosive detrimental play. Yep. And this game is much closer in the scoreboard than it was. Was it 13-0?
No, I think it was
13-3.
I think it was 10-0.
So it was 13-3 going into half.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel that close. The Bills had nothing really going. It wasn't until the fourth quarter they were able to manufacture anything of any real substance. You're just sitting there going, are they going to be able to figure this out? It seemed like every time they panned to McDermott on the sidelines, he had the Bill Burr look of confusion.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Bill Burr to begin with.
He does, but like, you know what I'm talking about? The kind of lazy eye, like, like one eyebrow up, going, what the hell were you doing?
Yeah, and that look, they were confusing him defensively in the first half. Josh Allen came to life in the second half, and look, here's the thing about both Herbert and Allen, that Herbert the last 2, maybe 3 weeks has not been good and has cost his team. But when you look at over the course of this season and the body of work that they've all laid out there, these are, according to like the football junkies, the analytics guys, are 2 of the most efficient quarterbacks in the entire NFL. If you look at with EPA, which is, how you perform to expectations on any given play, Brock Purdy's number 1, Mahomes is number 2, Josh Allen is 3, Tua and Lamar go 4 or 5, and then Justin Herbert is number 6. When you adjust things to a baseline factor. And so talent-wise, they are there. Efficiency, they are also there. The problem with both of these guys is the critical air has bitten them.
Mm-hmm.
And they need truly elite quarterbacks, they clean that up, right? And you can be a gambler. And look, there's been gamblers that have been very successful in the NFL. Hall of Famers, Brett Favre, my God, right? And you can have a very successful career, but it can also lead you to a Phillip Rivers-esque career of if you don't clean this up and you don't play within what the defense is giving you, it will cost your team. And that there will be one of two ways that you go, right? You can go down that road of, hey, I'm going to sling it and we're going to win some football games. And then you could play it controlled like Aaron Rodgers plays it controlled, man.
Yeah.
He's a gunslinger, but he is
it's in the rails. He takes this 1 or 2 chances a game, but otherwise it's within the bounds of success.
And I think both of those guys, Herbert and Allen, you see it in Coaching Matters so much because Josh Allen has had that coaching, and Brian Daboll is now in New York, and he was the guy that kept Allen through the navigational buoys, helped him grow. And then you're starting to see over the last couple of years that with Dorsey running the show, it's a little bit different. And there is a bit of a regression there. And look, every quarterback that has been great in NFL history has had a offensive coordinator that was their springboard, right? But for Tom Brady, it was, Charlie Weiss, and then it was Josh McDaniels. Both of those guys they had so much success, and they were steady with both those guys. And every coach, every great quarterback has that coach. Herbert is still looking for his, right? He's still looking for his. But we've seen with Josh Allen had it with Brian Daboll, and they had something really special there. And you hope that whatever Ken Dorsey or Kellen Moore tell these two guys, they get that thing back between the navigational buoys because you don't want them to cost your team games. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert yesterday cost their team games because they were a little bit reckless with the football, with interceptions for Herbert, an interception and a fumble for Allen. And the big difference that you have in Buffalo as opposed to LA is faith in the coach in direction of the franchise, right? Buffalo's the 1-2 in AFC East play this year. They've lost to the Jets and the Patriots.
Yes,
and they beat the Dolphins for God's sake.
And they're 4-3.
It's crazy.
They're one of the weirder teams in the NFL.
They're going to back into the playoffs,
and you're not going to want to face them as a 5 seed. You're going to look at that and go, nope, I don't want that. Gross.
I'm out. I'm out. I don't want it.
Well, we're going to keep this train going about quarterback play because one quarterback who hadn't really done much this season showed up and made a big difference in a marquee matchup. But first, here's the Big Kahuna Sports Center update.
You mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
after struggling coming out of the game.
And he was injured too. And
Yeah.
that was the thing. I mean, you're going up against a Vic Fangio defense. You get banged up, and that leg, that's going to be a little worrisome. I know that, Philly fan was freaking out because Marcus Mariota was warming up after halftime, and Jalen Hurts comes out with a leg brace on. And, after the game, he said, I hope it's not something that lingers moving forward, but you've got to be worried about it, especially when he has the performance that he had against the Miami Dolphins. And look, they have got, when you get A.J. Brown cooking, and he's one of those guys that I think he may be one of the more underappreciated wide receivers in the NFL, because just look at the numbers that he's put up this season. I mean, if you just go back to his last 5 games, 131, 175, 127, 131, and then last night, 137 yards. Those are freakish numbers.
With
that
the
we're
most
talking
catch,
about.
with only one of those being a double-digit game, being last night's game where he had 10 catches. He's making massive plays, because here's the big takeaway for me is the long in the last 5 games, going back 5 games, 28 yards, that's a normal, big play. Then 59, 38, 49, 42.
Well, yeah, to that point, the dude's on pace to have 2,000 yards receiving and only 7 touchdowns.
Big plays, eating up the field, not getting in the end zone.
He plays within the context of their offense and what they're trying to do. And he is physical. He is one of those guys that is twitching, always gets open. I find myself I love the plethora of talent that they have around Jalen Hurts, because you have guys like A.J. Brown, who's your physical but speedy receiver. You have Dallas Goedert at tight end, who, as a receiving tight end, he's one of the great ones in the league. But then you have Devontae Smith, who is breaking dudes off left and right and stretching a defense and keeping you honest. They have so many ways that they beat you, and especially now with DeAndre Swift coming out of the backfield as that receiving and running threat. They are complete, and when they get humming, it's a special team to watch. But I also feel like they have a little bit of what Kansas City's going through right now, which is when they know it's a marathon, right? The Dolphins have a little bit of this. It's a sprint through the season. That's why Mike McDaniel is trying to downplay all this stuff about, the record-setting offense they had through 5 weeks of the season. He's like, yeah, that was the goal. Because you come out of the gate so fast, it's impossible to maintain over a 17-week season. And where you look at with Kansas City and now Philly, they show a little bit of those warts early in the season, but you build off of your shortcomings, and nobody wants to play either one of the teams that were in the Super Bowl last year. They are two just wildly scary teams, veteran-laden, and they know how to win. And what you saw from Jalen Hurts last night was, in a season where he's taken a bit of a step back, he took a leap forward against one of the top teams in the NFL.
The interesting thing is, if you look at his game-by-game stats, yards-wise, he started out incredibly poor. Back-to-back games, sub-200 yards. Since then, it's been 277, 319, 303, 280, 279, and its completion percentage has been crazy. But last night was only the second night this year with more than 1 touchdown pass. He's had 2 games of 2 touchdown passes, and every single game, all but 2 games, he's had interceptions.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's been very weird where the yardage has been back up. The completion percentage has been crazy. I mean, hovering around 70%, but not getting the ball in the end zone, which, again, you're talking about A.J. Brown. They're eating up yards between the 20s, but not punching it in the air. They're only able to capitalize on the ground, which remember, this is the Josh Allen thing. His inability to score, and the Bills' inability to score in the red zone.
I think the Bills' problems are wildly different because they can't run the ball traditionally. And they made a point of emphasis this year, Buffalo did, to be able to run the ball in a traditional sense, not just running with Josh Allen. Philly can run the football.
Yes, as a team and with their quarterback.
And I think that what we're going to see is you don't need to unload the bag early in the year, right? There's two philosophies. Either you put so much on tape you become impossible to prepare for, or
You hold it all back.
You hold it back and you slowly unveil what you want to do. And over the course of the season, as your team evolves, whether that is due to injury or due to getting guys back, then you start unfolding the playbook further and further. And with Philly, we are going to keep things close to the vest, and slowly but surely we're going to roll things out there. And I don't have my concerns as much because that offensive line is so good. And that offensive line, we're seeing it with the brotherly shove or whatever it's called, of just how
Push.
powerful they are.
Yes.
And they are going to be able to run the football right now. They're going to be able to do it later in the year because they got people movers, and they got when you add Jalen Hurts into it, and I thought they made a great point on the broadcast last night where they said, Jalen Hurts squats 600 pounds.
Yes.
There are linebackers and defensive linemen that
don't.
wish they could squat 600 pounds. Like, that's a big factor into why the brotherly shove is that good. That, and you have, Jason Kelsey, who looks like a wrestler going for a double leg takedown every time they snap the ball and they do that thing. And then he's just like army crawling his way forward. They move human beings. I honestly want to see it. I want to see them try it on 1st and 10.
Just to see how many yards they get?
Just to see if they could pick up a first down, because they are so effective at it. Like, I love Sirianni yesterday. Did you hear his post-game, plea about why it shouldn't be banned? Fantastic.
You've seen it across the league that people can't do it like we can do it. They can't do it like we can do it. And so I'm making my plug right there. Like, don't ban this play. Like, if everyone could do it, everybody would. Where's the camera? If everybody could do it, everybody would do it.
Yes, they would.
Yeah,
and I want to see them do it for an entire drive, because if they have a game clinching scenario, like last night was a great example of this. And I think that it's important to kind of bring this up. Nick Sirianni, very aggressive on 4th down.
Yes.
He always has been. Brandon Staley, head coach of the Chargers, also been very aggressive on 4th down. Dan Lanning is catching a lot of heat for, and rightfully so, for, the decisions when they don't work.
Results matter.
But they're going to be criticized for it, and heavily. But as Lanning says, he's a big boy. He can take it. He went for 4th down he was inside his own 25-yard line, I think. And they had a 4th down and 1. He goes for it. They do the brotherly shove. They get it. From that point on, that was with 10:01 to go in the ball game. They went down and they scored. They took an extra 5 minutes and 15 seconds off the board when they went for it on 4th down, not once, but twice on that drive.
Chug. And as a point of reference, Jalen Hurts has 274 yards rushing this year and 6 rushing touchdowns. So, sure, his touchdown to interception passing ratio 9-8, 1-to-1 doesn't look good.
Yeah.
You throw those 6 rushing touchdowns, and all of a sudden 15-8 looks a lot better. And I think that's part of what you're talking about. Is he hasn't been spectacular in a sense, but you look at his total collective line last night: 279 yards passing, 20 yards rushing, but also 3 touchdowns. And all of a sudden, that starts to look like a lot more of an electric line.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
I mean, it's just the reality of it.
Magic, huh?
Yeah, but you talk about the first 2 games of the season when they're going against the Patriots and the Vikings, when, he gets 1 passing touchdown, but against the Vikings, he gets 1 passing and 2 rushing, and all of a sudden, that 193 looks a little less when you're putting up 3 total touchdowns. And that's, I think, the Jalen Hurtsification of their offense is that when they get around the goal line, we always talk about protect your quarterback. You don't want to necessarily put him in that position. He's a truck.
He is.
And it's like, they're so good at it. You have to use it.
Yep.
You have to use it. So
they were able to, they clinched the game with it. And that's why I have so little concern with that, being able to punch it in, because in the games where it will matter the most,
nobody's been able to stop it.
They'll be able to get it done. They'll be able to get the ball in.
One thing on the Dolphins, a stat I saw earlier, they have not beaten a team with a winning record since week 3 of last season against the Bills.
Well, good teams feast on teams that aren't good. Like that's the sign of a good team. And then when you're talking about beating beating other good teams, more often than not, it's a coin toss, one possession game. And what's the final score of this game? You know, it's if they get the stop on fourth down.
Yeah.
You don't think the Dolphins are going to go down and score?
Dude, I'm looking at this right now, though. With that stat that you just said, they have a game against the Chiefs, Cowboys, Ravens, Bills remaining. I think those may be the only teams that have winning records that they play the rest of the way. The rest of the way.
Yeah, because they do have the Titans and Commanders and the Raiders and the Patriots.
Yeah. I mean, that may be that may be it. I mean, they could finish this year, but even if that is the case, we could very reasonably see a team that is what?
11 wins.
12-5 or 13-4.
Pretty, like, I think the baseline is 11 wins.
Like, if you just beat the teams that
you're supposed to
have losing records, that's a 12-win season this year. Pretty dang good.
Super useful. I've got a question for you guys. Think about this long and hard. What food are you willing to be arrested for? Danny and Dusty,
None.
fan. I mean, not just that. It's just very, very, very seldomly does. Well, it's not true. We just had one in Derek Lively, who at Duke was a very highly touted recruit who was not good in college.
Well, I have a feeling this young man may be heading down that Derek Lively road.
Mackenzie Mbako, according to all the IU students that I've seen across the social media, took a stand for their school. He was arrested for trespassing at a Taco Bell after refusing to leave the drive-thru. And the story, as it is told via the police department, is that they had to they coaxed him out of the drive-thru into the parking lot. Then he refused to leave the parking lot. He eventually put it in reverse and started to leave the parking lot and went to another spot.
Why?
Because he went to the drive-thru and ordered his Crunchwrap Supreme, and they refused him service even though there was still an hour open, according to the hours. Now, if you go check the reviews on said Taco Bell, of which has been plastered all over IU social media since this went public, this is apparently the worst managed Taco Bell on the face of the planet. Closes early, screws up orders, screams at customers, skims it's bad. It's bad. And there are a lot of people who, there was a tweet that I saw in here from one IU student that says, Mbako has a Liv Moss mentality. It's a good sign for IU. They're having fun with this.
He sounds like a colossal douche, but that's a great
Sure,
tweet.
But also, he took a stand against the worst managed Taco Bell franchise in the history of America. And in this house, he is a hero. He is a legend. There's another one who did like some sleuthing. It says the North Walnut Taco Bell listed closing time is 3 a.m. He was booked at 3:16, meaning he arrived at the Taco Bell drive-thru well before then. So this location is notorious for poor customer service and closing early. He took a stand for every IU student. He's a hero. But it got so belligerent with Mbako that they had to break out the passenger side window to unlock the vehicle to drag him from the car.
Like, this is the deal. It's like, why did you take it this far?
Because the man wanted his crunch wrap.
Well, guess what? They told you were closed. I get it. Frustration. That's one thing. But one, it's 2:15 in the morning. I find it very hard to believe this man was sober.
Probably not. But he wasn't. He wasn't booked on a Dewey.
He wasn't.
So
he wasn't. Probably because he waited it out so long. My God, it sounds like he jumped through every hoop to make sure he wasn't loaded at all.
Now, here's the thing, though, too. How much further down the road could there have been? Could be before you hit another Taco Bell.
Bingo.
Or this is Bloomington,
or a Denny's, or
he wanted his crunch. No,
White Castle.
No, Dusty. You were a college football athlete. Tell me you didn't want a singular thing at any given night.
If you got a hankering for a bean burrito with no onions, that's what you're looking for.
So I ask you, what food would you? What's the food that you'd be willing to get arrested for? What is the thing that what food have you